The silver chains burned my wrists, but I didn't cry out. Crying never helped. Not when my mother died in childbirth. Not when the pack cast me out at 15 for being broken. And it wouldn't help now, standing in the throne room of the most feared alpha king in North America, waiting for him to decide if I lived or died. Cale Stormborn didn't look at me. He never looked at anyone directly, they said. His eyes were the color of winter ice, pale and merciless, and right now they were fixed on the healer kneeling 3 feet to my left. The old man's hands shook as he pressed his forehead to the marble floor. "You swore an oath," Cale said. His voice was quiet. That made it worse. Everyone in the throne room held their breath. 3 months, 3 healers, my brother still dies. "Majesty, the healer's voice cracked. "The poison is ancient. No remedy I know can." "Then you are useless to me." The snap of Cale's fingers was soft. The guard's blade was not. I flinched as the healer's body crumpled, blood spreading across white marble like spilled wine. My stomach turned, but I kept my face blank. Show nothing, feel nothing, survive. "Next!" Cale's eyes shifted. Not to me. To the woman beside me, a witch from the Eastern Covens with tattoos crawling up her neck. She stepped forward, chin high, and began to speak in a language I didn't understand. Cale listened for exactly 45 seconds before his hand rose again. "No." The witch's confidence shattered. "But I haven't even." "Your magic reeks of death. My brother needs life. Get out." She fled, smart woman. Then there was only me. The throne room was silent except for the crackle of torches and my own heartbeat thundering in my ears. I could smell the dead healer's blood, copper and fear. The guards on either side of me stepped back, leaving me alone in the center of the room. Cale's gaze finally landed on me. I felt it like a physical weight, cold and assessing. He leaned forward slightly, elbows on his knees, fingers steepled. Even sitting, he looked carved from stone. Broad shoulders, sharp jaw, hair black as a raven's wing pulled back in a severe knot. Scars marked his hands, his neck, the left side of his face. This was a man who had killed and been killed at and survived it all. "Name," he said. "Arya." My voice came out steadier than I expected. "Arya Whitmore." "Pack." "None." His eyebrow lifted a fraction. "Rogue." "Outcast." Interest flickered in those pale eyes. "Why?" I met his gaze. It was a risk. Omegas weren't supposed to look alphas in the eye, especially not alpha kings. But if I was going to die here, I'd do it with my spine straight. "I was born wrong," I said. "No wolf, no shift. Just human enough to be useless, just omega enough to be weak. And you think you can heal my brother when 3 trained healers could not?" "No." Silence. Someone in the crowd gasped. Cale's expression didn't change, but something sharpened in the air around him. Danger. I felt it prickling along my skin like static before a lightning strike. "Explain," he said softly. "I don't think I can heal him," I said. "I know I can, because I've felt this poison before." That got his attention. He stood, and the movement was so sudden, so fluid, that I took an involuntary step back. He descended from the dais in 3 long strides and stopped directly in front of me. Up close, he was even more overwhelming. Taller, broader, the scent of pine and winter wind rolling off him in waves. "Where?" he demanded. "In myself." I lifted my chained hands, turned them so he could see the faint silver scars running along my inner wrists. "When I was 12, someone poisoned the well in my village. Nightshade root, blood moss, and something else I never identified. 17 people died. I should have been the 18th. His eyes narrowed. "But you didn't die." "No," I burned it out. "How?" I hesitated. This was the part that had gotten me exiled. The part that made healers call me abomination and priests call me cursed. But Cale was still standing there, waiting, and his brother was still dying. I can feel sickness, I said quietly. Inside people, like heat under skin, I don't know how, I just reach for it, pull it into myself, and then I burn it away. Show me. What? He grabbed my wrist, yanked me forward. His other hand went to the knife at his belt. In one smooth motion, he dragged the blade across his palm. Blood welled, dark and red. Heal it, he ordered. That's not, I stared at the cut. It wasn't deep, but it was deliberate. That's not sickness, that's a wound. Then it should be easy. Bastard, he was testing me. Fine. I wrapped my fingers around his hand, ignoring the way his skin burned hot against mine, ignoring the sharp intake of breath from the guards, ignoring everything except the bright flare of pain singing through his palm. It wasn't sickness, no, but pain had a signature, a frequency. I knew this one. I closed my eyes and pulled. The cut's heat rushed into me, sharp and stinging, racing up my arm and into my chest. For a moment, it hurt. Then my body did what it always did. It devoured the pain, swallowed it whole, turned it to ash. When I opened my eyes, Cale's palm was smooth. No blood, no scar, just unmarked skin. He stared at his hand, then at me. Impossible. You asked me to show you. How do you feel? Fine. I was. The pain was already gone, burned away in the furnace of whatever lived inside me. It doesn't stay. It never does. Cale's jaw worked. For a long moment, he said nothing. The throne room was so quiet I could hear my own pulse. Take her to Tristan, he said finally, voice rough. If she harms him, kill her. If she saves him. He stopped. Looked at me again, something unreadable flickering behind the ice. If she saves him, she stays. The guards moved immediately, unlocking my chains. I rubbed my wrists, trying not to think about what stays meant, trying not to think about the dead healer's blood still staining the floor. Cale turned away, already dismissing me. But just before I was led from the room, he spoke again. Arya Whitmore, his voice carried, cold and absolute. Do not make me regret this. I didn't answer, I couldn't, because as the guards pulled me toward the corridor, I felt it. A tug, deep in my chest, sharp and insistent, pulling me toward something in this fortress. Toward someone. The bond. No, it couldn't be. I was broken. Wolfless. The moon goddess didn't give broken Omega's fated mates. But the pull didn't care what I believed. It only pulled harder. Toward the throne. Toward him. They took me down 3 flights of stairs, through corridors that smelled of stone and old blood, past guards who watched me like I might explode. No one spoke. I didn't ask questions. I was too busy trying to breathe through the panic clawing up my throat. The bond. I'd felt a bond. To an alpha king who killed healers for failing him. This was a nightmare. The corridor ended at a heavy oak door. One of the guards knocked twice, then pushed it open. The room beyond was dim, lit only by a fire in the hearth and a scattering of candles. It smelled like sweat and sickness and something underneath that made my skin crawl. Decay. A man lay on the bed, younger than Cale, maybe mid-20s, with the same black hair and sharp features. But where Cale radiated power, this man looked hollowed out. His skin was gray. His breathing shallow, dark veins spiderwebbed across his neck and chest, pulsing faintly with each labored heartbeat. Tristan Stormborn, one of the guards said. The king's brother, 3 weeks since the poison entered his system. He has days at most. I approached slowly. The pull in my chest twisted, but it wasn't toward Tristan. It was still behind me, somewhere in the fortress, tethered to Cale. I shoved it down. Leave me, I said. Absolutely not. I turned. The guard who'd spoken was older, grizzled, with a scar bisecting his face. His hand rested on his sword hilt. You could be an assassin. If I wanted to kill him, I'd just let the poison finish the job. I gestured at Tristan. You've been in this room for 3 weeks and he's gotten worse. Whatever you're doing isn't working. So either let me try or stand there and watch him die. Your choice." The guard's jaw clenched, but after a long, tense moment, he jerked his head toward the door. 5 minutes, we'll be right outside." They left. The door closed with a soft thud. I was alone with a dying prince. I pulled a chair close to the bed and sat. Up close, Tristan looked even worse. The veins under his skin pulsed sluggishly, filled with something dark and wrong. I recognized the pattern. Not the exact poison, but the family, nightshade-based, complex, designed to kill slowly. "All right," I murmured. "Let's see what they did to you." I pressed my palm to his chest. The heat hit me immediately. Searing. Vicious. This wasn't just poison. It was 3 poisons woven together like a braid, each one feeding off the others. No wonder the healers had failed. They'd been trying to cure one poison at a time. But these were symbiotic. Remove one and the other 2 would surge. I closed my eyes and reached deeper. The poisons sang against my palm, a discordant howl of pain and rot. Nightshade, blood moss, and the 3rd. My breath caught. Wolfsbane. They'd poisoned a werewolf with wolfsbane. That alone should have killed him in hours. But someone had been clever. They'd diluted it, wrapped it in the other poisons, let it work slowly. Tristan's wolf was still fighting, barely, clawing at the poison from the inside. That's why he was still alive. But he wouldn't be for long. I took a breath, then another. This was going to hurt. I pulled. The poison roared into me like a flood, black and burning, tearing through my veins. I gasped, back arching, every nerve screaming. It was worse than the well, worse than anything I'd ever felt. The nightshade wrapped around my lungs, squeezing. The blood moss dug into my bones. The wolfsbane. The wolfsbane tried to kill me. I didn't have a wolf, but the poison didn't know that. It searched for something to latch onto, something to destroy, and when it found nothing, it turned inward, eating itself, burning itself out. I fed it. I pulled more, dragging the poison from Tristan's body into mine, letting it rage and thrash and consume. My hands shook. My vision blurred. Somewhere far away, I heard the door slam open, heard voices shouting, but I couldn't stop. Not yet. Not until. There. The last thread of poison snapped. I shoved it down, deep into the furnace inside me, and let it burn. Then I collapsed. Hands caught me before I hit the floor. Strong hands, familiar. I blinked up into pale eyes. Cale, he'd come. Why had he come? "You're bleeding," he said. His voice sounded strange, tight. I touched my face. My fingers came away red, nose bleed. "I'm fine." "You're not fine, He stopped, looked past me at the bed. Tristan was sitting up. The gray was gone from his skin, the veins had faded. He looked weak, shaky, but alive. His eyes were open and clear. "Cale," Tristan's voice was hoarse. "What?" Cale moved. One moment he was holding me, the next he was at his brother's side, hands on Tristan's face, checking his pulse, his eyes, his neck. I saw the exact moment relief hit him. His shoulders dropped, his jaw unclenched. For just a second, the ice in his eyes melted. "You're all right," Cale said quietly. "You're all right." Tristan managed a weak smile. "Who's the girl?" Both of them looked at me. I was still on the floor, blood dripping from my nose, exhausted and shaking. I probably looked half dead myself. "She saved you," Cale said. He stood, crossed back to me, and without warning scooped me up. I made an undignified sound of protest, but he ignored it, carrying me toward the door. "Get the healers," he barked at the guards. "Tristan needs monitoring, and send someone to prepare a room." "For the Omega?" one guard asked, surprise clear in his voice. Cale's arms tightened around me. "For my guest." The word landed like a stone in still water. Guest, not prisoner, not servant. I looked up at him, but his face was unreadable again, carved from ice and stone. The bond in my chest pulled tighter. This was very, very bad. The room they gave me was bigger than any place I'd ever slept. A four-poster bed with thick furs, a fireplace, windows overlooking a forest that stretched to the horizon. It was beautiful and terrifying in equal measure. I lasted exactly 10 minutes before I tried to leave. The guard outside the door stopped me with one hand. "King's orders, you rest." "I'm fine." "You collapsed, you're bleeding, you're resting." I glared at him. He stared back unmoved. Finally, I retreated into the room and slammed the door. Mature, very mature. I paced instead, back and forth across the thick rug, trying to ignore the way my legs shook, trying to ignore the warmth still pooling in my chest where Cale had held me. I'd saved his brother. That was good. That meant I'd live. But it also meant I was trapped here. And the bond. A knock interrupted my spiraling thoughts. Before I could answer, the door opened. Cale stepped inside, alone, and closed it behind him. My heart kicked against my ribs. "You should be with Tristan," I said. "He's with the healers." Cale crossed the room, stopping a few feet away, close enough that I could smell pine and winter, close enough that the bond hummed. "You saved his life. That's what you brought me here to do." "Yes." He studied me, head tilted slightly. "How do you feel?" "Tired. I'll be fine by morning." "You pulled 3 poisons into yourself. Poisons that should have killed you." I shrugged. "They didn't." "Why not?" "I told you. I burned them out." "That's not an answer." He stepped closer. I stepped back. My shoulders hit the wall. He didn't stop until he was right in front of me, one hand braced on the wall beside my head. "I've never seen anything like what you did. No healer, no witch, no shaman, just you." "I'm broken," I said. The words tasted bitter. "No wolf, no pack, just this." I gestured vaguely at myself. "Whatever this is." "This," Cale said quietly, "saved my brother." His other hand came up, fingers hovering near my face. For a moment, I thought he'd touch me. Then he pulled back. "Stay," he said, "in the fortress as my healer." "I'm not." "You are now. You can't just order me." "I'm the Alpha King. I can order anything." But his voice softened just slightly. "Please." The please surprised me. I stared at him, at the sharp lines of his face, the pale eyes that weren't quite as cold as I'd thought. There was something underneath, something raw. "Why?" I asked. "Because Tristan isn't the only one who needs you." The bond flared. I felt it in my chest, in my bones, a certainty I couldn't name. "I can't stay," I whispered. "Why not?" "Because you're my mate and I'm broken, and this will only end in pain. Because I've been cast out of every pack I've ever known, and I won't survive being cast out of yours. Because I'm terrified of wanting something I can't have. I just can't." Cale's jaw clenched. For a long moment, he said nothing. Then he pushed off the wall, putting distance between us. "You're free to go," he said, voice flat. "In the morning, I won't keep you prisoner." He turned toward the door. "Wait," I said. He stopped. 1 month. The words came out before I could stop them. "I'll stay 1 month, make sure Tristan's stable, then I leave." Cale looked back at me. Something flickered in his eyes. Hope, maybe, or calculation. 1 month, he agreed. He left. I slid down the wall and buried my face in my hands. 1 month. What had I just agreed to? The bond purred in my chest, satisfied. I was so screwed. The fortress woke before dawn. I heard it from my window, guards changing shifts, servants moving through corridors, the distant clang of the training yard. I'd barely slept, too wired, too aware of every sound. Too aware of Cale, somewhere in the building. A knock came at sunrise. A young woman entered, carrying a tray. She had dark skin and kind eyes, and she looked at me with curiosity rather than fear. "Breakfast," she said, setting the tray on the table. "King's orders. He said you're to eat and then meet him in the council room." "Council room. He wants to introduce you, officially." She smiled. "I'm Maya, by the way, head of the household staff. If you need anything, ask for me." "I need to leave." Maya laughed. "Good luck with that. The king doesn't let valuable things go easily." She headed for the door, then paused. "For what it's worth, you did a good thing. Tristan's a good man. We thought we'd lost him." She left before I could respond. I picked at the food, bread, cheese, fruit, but my stomach was too knotted to eat much. Instead, I changed into the clothes that had been left for me. Simple but well-made. A soft tunic and pants in deep gray, better than anything I'd owned. The council room was on the second floor, guarded by two massive wolves in human form. They stepped aside when I approached, and one pushed open the door. Inside, a long table dominated the space. A dozen people sat around it, advisors, I guessed, from their fine clothes and calculating expressions. At the head of the table sat Kale. He stood when I entered. Everyone else followed. "This is Arya Whitmore," Kale said. "As of today, she is the fortress healer. She will be given access to the infirmary, the libraries, and any resources she requires." His gaze swept the table. "She saved my brother's life. Anyone who questions her presence answers to me." Silence. Then a man at the far end of the table leaned forward. He was older, silver-haired, with a sharp face and sharper eyes. "With respect, Your Majesty, we know nothing about this woman. Her pack, her training, her loyalties." "I vouch for her," Kale said flatly. "That may not be enough." The man's gaze slid to me. "No offense, girl, but the king's brother was poisoned. Trusting a stranger, a rogue, seems unwise." "Then you heal him," I said. The man blinked. "Excuse me." "You're so concerned about my qualifications. Where were yours when Tristan was dying? Where were any of yours?" I looked around the table. 3 healers tried and failed. I succeeded. If that's not enough for you, I don't know what is." The silver-haired man's face darkened. "You dare." "Enough." Kale's voice cracked like a whip. "Arya is under my protection. This matter is closed." The man sat back, jaw tight, but he didn't argue further. The rest of the meeting passed in a blur. I barely listened, too aware of the eyes on me, too aware of Kale's presence at the head of the table. When it finally ended, people filed out, some nodding to me, others ignoring me entirely. The silver-haired man was the last to leave. He paused by my chair. "A word of advice," he said quietly. "The king may protect you now, but protection has limits. Don't mistake his gratitude for something more." He left before I could respond. "Ignore Marcus," Kale said. He'd remained seated, watching me. "He's suspicious of everyone." "He's not wrong," I stood. "I'm a stranger, you don't know me." "I know you saved my brother." "That doesn't mean you can trust me." Kale rose, rounding the table until he stood in front of me. "Then give me a reason to." The bond flared. I felt it like heat spreading through my chest, pulling me toward him. He felt it too. I saw it in the way his pupils dilated, the way his breathing changed. "You feel it," he said softly. "Don't you?" My throat went dry. "I don't know what you're talking about." "Yes, you do." He took a step closer. "I felt it the moment you walked into the throne room. I thought I was imagining it. But then you touched me, healed my hand, and—" He stopped, swallowed. "You're my mate." The word hung between us, heavy and undeniable. "No," I whispered. "Yes." "I don't have a wolf. The moon goddess doesn't." "I don't care what the moon goddess does or doesn't do." Kale's hand came up, cupping my face. His thumb brushed my cheekbone. "I know what I feel, and I think you feel it too." I did. Of course I did. The bond was screaming at me to close the distance, to lean into his touch, to accept what was being offered. But I'd learned long ago that wanting something didn't mean I could have it. 1 month, I said, pulling back. That was the deal. Don't make this harder than it has to be. Pain flickered in his eyes, but he let me go. As you wish, he said quietly. I fled before I could change my mind. The infirmary became my refuge. It was tucked away in the east wing, a series of rooms filled with cots, cabinets of herbs, and the sharp smell of antiseptic. The head healer, an elderly woman named Alara, welcomed me with wary respect. I've heard what you did for Prince Tristan, she said, showing me around. Impressive and terrifying. I get that a lot. She laughed. I imagine you do. Well, you're welcome here. We can always use skilled hands. I fell into a routine. Mornings in the infirmary, treating minor injuries, mixing salves, learning Alara's methods. Afternoons in the library, studying texts on poisons and cures. Evenings alone in my room, trying not to think about Kale. I failed spectacularly at that last part. He was everywhere, in the corridors, in the training yard, in the great hall during meals, and every time I saw him, the bond pulled tighter. I avoided him as much as I could, but the fortress wasn't that big. 2 weeks in, I was in the library when he found me. I looked up from my book to find him standing in the doorway, arms crossed. You're avoiding me, he said. I'm studying. You've been studying for 6 hours. I'm a dedicated student. He moved into the room, slow and deliberate, predatory. We need to talk. We're talking. Arya, he stopped in front of my table. This is killing me. My hand stilled on the book. What is? You here, so close and so far. He leaned down, bracing his hands on the table. I'm trying to respect your boundaries. I'm trying to give you space. But every instinct I have is screaming at me to, he stopped, breathed, to claim you. Heat flooded my face. You can't. I know. I'm leaving in 2 weeks. I know that too, his voice dropped. Doesn't change what I want. I met his eyes, mistake. The hunger there stole my breath. What do you want? I whispered. You, simple, devastating. I want you to stay, not because I ordered it, because you choose it. I can't. Why not? Because I'm broken. The words burst out, raw and jagged. I don't have a wolf. I can't shift. I can't run with a pack. I can't give you what a mate should give you. Kale stared at me. Then, slowly, he walked around the table. I stood, backing up, but he kept coming until I was against the bookshelf with nowhere to go. You think I care about that, he said quietly. You should. You're an alpha king. You need. I need you. His hands came up, framing my face. Exactly as you are. Broken, whole, wolfless, whatever, I don't care. Your pack will care. Your council can answer to me if they have a problem. Tears burned my eyes. This won't work. Then let it fail. His forehead touched mine. But let me try, please. The bond sang between us, a golden thread pulling tighter and tighter. I felt his heartbeat, heard his breathing, smelled pine and winter and want. 1 month, I whispered. That's all I promised. Then give me these 2 weeks. His voice was rough. Let me show you what we could be. I should have said no, should have pushed him away, should have run. Instead, I kissed him. He made a sound low in his throat, surprise and relief and hunger, and then he was kissing me back. His hands slid into my hair, tilting my head, deepening the kiss until I couldn't breathe, couldn't think, couldn't do anything but hold on. When we finally broke apart, we were both shaking. 2 weeks, I said. Kale smiled. It transformed his face, made him look younger, less haunted. 2 weeks. It was a mistake. But I was going to make it anyway. The next 2 weeks were the best and worst of my life. Best because Kale was God's, he was everything. Attentive, protective, tender in ways I never expected from a king who killed without hesitation. He brought me tea in the mornings, walked me through the fortress gardens at sunset, sat with me in the library reading while I studied just to be near me. And the kisses. There were so many kisses. Worst because I was falling, hard and fast and completely. Every moment with him made leaving harder. Every smile, every touch, every whispered word in the dark carved itself into my heart. I was going to shatter when this ended. But I couldn't stop. On the 5th day, he took me to the cliffs. We stood at the edge, wind whipping around us, and he pointed to the forest below. "That's where I first shifted," he said. "I was 8. My father took me out there, told me to find my wolf or die trying." "That's horrible." He shrugged. "That's pack law, strength or nothing." I took his hand. He looked down at our joined fingers, then at me. "You're strong," I said, "but not because you shifted at 8, because you're still standing after everything you've survived." Something in his eyes cracked. He pulled me against him, buried his face in my hair, and just held me. On the 10th day, I healed a guard who'd been injured in training. Kale watched from the doorway, silent, as I pulled the pain from the man's broken ribs into myself. When I finished, the guard thanked me and left. Kale stayed. "Does it hurt?" he asked. "When you do that?" "Yes." "But you do it anyway." "It doesn't stay. The pain, it burns out." He crossed the room, took my hands. "You burn yourself out for others, over and over. Who takes care of you?" "No one," I wanted to say. "No one ever has." But Kale was looking at me like I was something precious, and the words died in my throat. "You do," I whispered instead. He kissed me then, soft and slow like a promise. On the 13th day, everything fell apart. I was in the infirmary when Marcus, the silver-haired council member, found me. He closed the door behind him, and my instinct screamed danger. "Can I help you?" I asked, keeping my voice level. "I think you can," he smiled. It didn't reach his eyes. "I have a proposition." "I'm not interested." "You haven't heard it yet." He moved closer. "Leave, tonight. I'll give you gold, horses, safe passage to whatever territory you choose. All you have to do is walk away." "Why would I do that?" "Because you're a liability." His voice hardened. "You're a rogue Omega with no pack, no wolf, and far too much influence over the king. Do you think the council will tolerate that? Do you think the other packs will?" Kale is blinded by the bond. Marcus's expression turned pitying. "He'll protect you for now, but bonds can be broken, girl, especially when politics demand it. Leave now with dignity and wealth, or stay and watch him choose his crown over you." The words hit like a physical blow. "He wouldn't," I said. "He's the Alpha King. He'll do what's necessary." Marcus turned toward the door. "You have until morning to decide. Choose wisely." He left. I stood there, shaking, as his words echoed in my head. Bonds can be broken. Choose his crown over you. He was right, wasn't he? I'd always known this couldn't last. I was temporary. A moment in Kale's life before he moved on to someone suitable, someone whole. I'd been fooling myself. That night, I packed my bag. I was halfway out the window when Kale appeared in my doorway. "Where are you going?" His voice was quiet, dangerous. I froze. "Marcus came to see you." Not a question, a statement. "What did he say?" "Nothing." "Arya," he crossed the room in 3 strides. "Don't lie to me." "He offered me money to leave." Kale's jaw clenched. "And you're taking it?" "It's better this way." "Better for who?" "For you," I shouted. "For your pack, your council, your crown. I'm a rogue, Kale. I don't belong here." "You belong with me." "No, I don't. If you say broken one more time, I'm going to lose my mind. He grabbed my shoulders, not hard, but firm. You are not broken. You are the strongest person I've ever met. You walked into my throne room knowing you might die and saved my brother anyway. You pull pain into yourself to spare others. You made me feel something I thought I'd never have. His voice cracked. Don't you dare call yourself broken. Tears spilled down my cheeks. They'll make you choose, the crown or me. Then I choose you. You can't. Watch me. He pulled me against him, one hand in my hair, the other around my waist. I am the Alpha King. I make the rules, and I choose you. Kale. Stay. His forehead pressed to mine. Please, just stay. I wanted to. Gods, I wanted to. But Marcus's words haunted me. Bonds can be broken. I can't, I whispered. Kale's arms dropped. He stepped back, and the distance between us felt like a chasm. Then go, he said quietly. But know this. If you walk away, you're not doing it for me. You're doing it because you're afraid, and I thought you were braver than that. The words cut deep. He left without another word. I stood there, bag in hand, heart in pieces. Then I made my choice. I found him in the throne room, alone. He sat on the steps of the dais, head in his hands, looking more defeated than I'd ever seen him. I'm afraid, I said. He looked up. Surprise flickered across his face. I'm terrified, I continued, moving closer. Of staying, of failing you, of being the reason your pack turns against you, of not being enough. Arya. But you're right. I stopped in front of him. I'm more afraid of leaving, of spending the rest of my life wondering what we could have been, of being a coward. Kale stood slowly, hope and fear warred in his eyes. I'm staying, I said. Not for 1 month, not for 2 weeks, for as long as you'll have me. He closed the distance between us in one stride. His hands cupped my face, thumbs brushing away tears I didn't know I'd shed. Forever, he said hoarsely. I'll have you forever. Then he kissed me, and it tasted like coming home. The council meeting, 3 days later, was brutal. Marcus stood, flanked by 2 other council members, and formally challenged my place in the pack. He cited tradition, law, precedent. He called me unsuitable, dangerous, a threat to the throne. Kale let him speak, let him say every poisonous word. Then he stood. Are you finished? His voice was ice. Marcus faltered. Your Majesty, we only seek. To undermine your king. Kale descended from the dais. Every eye in the room followed him. You offered my mate money to leave. You questioned her loyalty, her worth, her right to stand beside me. He stopped in front of Marcus. You forgot one thing. What? Marcus whispered. I am the Alpha King. My word is law, and I say she stays. Kale's eyes swept the room. Anyone who disagrees can challenge me for the throne, right here, right now. Silence. No one moved. That's what I thought, Kale said. He returned to the dais, held out his hand to me. Come here. I stood, legs shaking, and climbed the steps. His hand was warm and steady in mine. This is Arya Whitmore, he said to the room. My mate, your future Luna. She will be treated with the respect owed to her position. Anyone who fails to do so answers to me. He looked at Marcus. Are we clear? Marcus bowed stiffly. Crystal, your Majesty. Good, this meeting is over. People filed out, some bowing to me, others avoiding my eyes. When the room was empty, I turned to Kale. You didn't have to do that. Yes, I did. He pulled me into his arms. You're mine, I protect what's mine. I buried my face in his chest. I love you. He went still. Then his arms tightened, and I felt him press a kiss to the top of my head. I love you too, he said softly, more than I thought possible. We stood there, holding each other, while the fortress settled around us. 3 months later, I stood in the fortress garden, surrounded by pack members, and let Kale mark me. His teeth sank into the junction of my neck and shoulder, the bite sharp and perfect and right. The bond flared, golden and complete, locking into place. When he pulled back, blood on his lips, his eyes were molten. "Mine," he said. "Yours," I agreed. The pack howled. I couldn't join them, no wolf, remember, but I didn't care. I had everything I needed. That night, in our shared chambers, Kale traced the mark on my neck with gentle fingers. "No regrets?" he asked. I thought about the village that cast me out, the packs that rejected me, the years of being told I was broken. Then I looked at the man who chose me anyway, who saw strength where others saw weakness, who made me believe I was worth choosing. "None," I said. He smiled and kissed me, and the bond sang between us, whole and unbreakable. I was still wolfless, still different, still the girl who'd been called broken. But I was also loved, claimed, home. And that was everything.